Given the sensitivity of the crime, we aren't saying the victim's name. Her father is still emotional about allowing his daughter to go out with 46-year-old Robert New.
Do you need me to read the warrant to you, or are you familiar with what's in it?
I'm familiar, Your Honor.
Who appeared before a judge for the first time Tuesday night.
Her life is already been pretty much destroyed, and if this goes out with her name and anywhere connected with her, it's going to really do a tune. There's a lot of trauma going on right now. There's a lot of therapy going on right now.
No, I understand, and my heart goes out to you and your family.
But here's what the father really wants everyone to know.
I am totally in favor of the police department. They have been phenomenal, and they've been helpful through all this. They've got a bad individual there. They have found it. They are taking care of it.
Police say Officer New, who has been with the Cobb County Police Department since 2005 and was recently part of the DUI division, is accused of slapping the victim, trying to strangle her, and was assaulting her throughout the entire month of March. They say the two met online.
A forensic interview of the victim revealed that the victim's mental capacity is somewhere between 10 and 14 years of age.
According to warrants, New sent the victim abusive text messages and even contacted her after she warned him to stay away.
I don't think police officers are a danger to the community. I think that what we're dealing with here is a police officer that has engaged in what appears to be criminal activity, and the department and the county has taken appropriate action.
Officer New is on administrative leave without pay and is being held here at the Cobb County Jail without bond, Vinny.